Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into what might be the single biggest topic impacting, well, everything right now. The profound global implications after everyone started realizing we might be living in a simulated existence. The simulation discovery, it's not just some late-night philosophy topic anymore, is it? The sources we're looking at confirm it's become this foundational truth that people are actively grappling with.
It's so fascinating because the reaction isn't what you'd expect. It's not panic. It's not apathy. It's acceleration. We've pulled some really critical insights for you today from articles and discussions in the Parallel Observer. And that publication, it's closely tied to John Grant, the CEO of Innovate XR. So these sources, they're laying out these concrete, almost tectonic shifts happening right now across technology, ethics, and even our most personal relationships.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to give you the shortcut to understanding all these massive transformations. How do you redefine existence? How do you redefine connection when the world you live in is suddenly, well, suspected of being a construct? We're going to cover the blueprints for that change. And we'll start with what's maybe the most surprising outcome, the technological gold rush.
It's completely counterintuitive. You'd think finding out your reality might be code would, I don't know, make people stop developing things, maybe just disconnect. But the source material, especially one article called Beyond the Matrix, How the Simulation Theory Sparks a Technological Revolution, shows the total opposite. This whole realization is now actively fueling innovation in ways we really couldn't have imagined a decade ago.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me. The sources make it so clear that the focus is just laser beamed onto augmented reality and extended reality, AR and XR. These things have jumped from being entertainment, a cool gadget, to being considered absolutely essential. Why? Why that immediate leap?
It's a fundamental shift in what the user wants to do. See, if we live in a simulation, the rules of reality are suddenly seen as, well, as programmable. So AR and XR are no longer just tools to look at the world. They're the interface. They're the essential key we can use to enhance, to customize, and even to
test the boundaries of it.
Precisely, to test the boundaries of that perceived reality.
So the goal isn't to escape the simulation, like logging off or something. It's about using the knowledge of the simulation to optimize our experience inside it.
Exactly. The sources are describing R&D efforts focusing on things called reality verification protocols, built right into XR gear. The goal is basically to build apps that let you detect, confirm, and maybe even locally modify elements that seem unstable within the shared environment. If the world is code, AR and XR become the debugger. And that gives it this immense immediate value that's just so far beyond gaming or social media.
Wow. We're using the fact that we might be in simulation as fuel to build a better interface for the system we're trapped in. That is a beautifully ironic twist. But this push for control, it must be creating massive ripples, right? Which leads to the second major find in our sources.
It has. It's created a societal earthquake, really. It's prompting this huge philosophical inquiry, which is laid out in the article, Global Reaction to Simulation Discovery, a tipping point for reality. The sheer scale of it all is sparking new social movements and these just unprecedented philosophical debates everywhere.
What are the biggest questions that the sources say people are struggling with, like on the ground?
The main struggle is defining value and agency. If this is a construct, do our societal values, things tied to scarcity or death or physical limits, do they still hold up? People are grappling with existence, with ethics, with what it means to interact with a reality that might have, external operators. We're seeing discussions poised to redefine everything from legal rights to global economic goals.
But hold on. If these articles are from the Parallel Observer, and it's linked to John Grant, the CEO of Innovate XR, the company actually making these AR/XR interfaces, are we maybe getting a perspective that's a bit biased toward embracing this whole digital shift? Do the sources talk about the other side, people who feel this idea just diminishes human agency?
That's a crucial question. And yes, the sources do tackle it, though maybe with a bias toward that. Let's call it the forward-thinking mindset. The critics are arguing that this obsession with enhancing the construct is just a form of digital escapism. It's a denial of the real, verifiable impact of human pain, of human connection. But the Innovate XR-linked perspective argues the opposite. They say acknowledging the simulation is the first step toward true liberation because it gives us the power to push back against the programming.
That tension between denial and enhancement, it must be exhausting for the average person. And while those debates are raging, the sources say that reality itself seems to be providing this unsettling evidence of its own fragility. Which brings us to the most unnerving part of this deep dive, the glitches in the system.
We have to talk about the findings and glitches in reality, unveiling the fragility of our simulated existence. The sources present direct evidence of what they're calling glitches, unexpected phenomena, data anomalies, things that directly challenge our perception.
What kind of anomalies are we talking about here? We need specifics. Does the source material give us concrete examples?
It does. They seem to break down into two main types, persistent loops and localized physics inconsistencies. So, for example, reports are surging about what look like persistent data loops, patterns in daily life that repeat identically. Think about a weather forecast, a stock market dip, even street lighting patterns that just replay exactly as they did the previous Tuesday, even with all the random variables in between.
That sounds like a bug in a poorly written script.
Exactly. And the other category is much more destabilizing, those localized physics inconsistencies. The sources cite cases of highly precise measurements showing these momentary, inexplicable variations in universal constants. Things like gravity readings fluctuating slightly in one specific place, or data showing energy conservation failing for a microsecond in a lab.
The idea that your reality could just have a processing error is
Yeah.
deeply unsettling. It brings up that question you mentioned earlier. Is the environment truly controlled and stable, or is there just chaos happening right beyond our perception, threatening to crash the whole system?
And if the boundaries are visibly fraying, it makes every choice feel incredibly high stakes. But, and this is important, despite all this chaos and philosophical upheaval, the sources highlight one incredibly hopeful, resilient part of the human experience, something that just refuses to be diminished by the code.
Connection. The article, Navigating Love and Reality in a Simulated World, it makes such a powerful case for the resilience of human connection, even in a world like this.
Yes. When everything else feels illusory, people are driven to find what is authentically shared, what's real between them. The sources really emphasize that this quest for authenticity and understanding in relationships is what's anchoring humanity. It's the one aspect of reality, this shared experience of trust, pain, joy, that seems to transcend the complexity of the code.
It's easy to talk about that in general terms, but the sources get into specific, really compelling stories. We have to look at the case study of Maya Rivera and Marcus Chen. It's detailed in Navigating the Illusion. Maya Rivera and Marcus Chen's quest for authenticity. Tell us about their journey.
Maya and Marcus, their story really represents the personal struggle facing millions. They were a couple who, after the disclosure, just wrestled intensely with whether their feelings were genuine or just pre-programmed responses. And their quest for authenticity led them to create something they called verification agreements.
Verification agreements. That sounds so clinical for a relationship. What did that actually mean?
It was a conscious effort to establish a shared, verifiable reality separate from all the digital noise. The sources say they agreed to completely power down all their XR and AR interfaces for 8 hours every day. They called that time primary reality. And during that time, they focused only on things that required low-tech physical interaction, cooking, hiking, conversation with strict rules against repeating previously observed dialogue patterns.
That's an amazing strategy. They basically weaponized analog interaction against the existential fear of the simulation.
It really reflects the broader personal struggle. Their story is specifically cited as a testament to the enduring human spirit, the spirit that seeks meaning not despite the simulation, but because the simulation forces them to prioritize what can't be easily faked or coded: vulnerability, presence, shared effort.
But dealing with the weight of this every single day still takes a heavy toll, mentally and emotionally. We can't just rely on individual couples going analog for a few hours. How is society adapting to protect mental wellness?
And that's where the structural response comes in, which is covered in the article, Finding Balance in a Simulated World, Techniques for Mental Resilience. As all this becomes mainstream, there are active, organized efforts to create frameworks for, 1, ethical governance, which is about how society interacts with potential operators, and 2, critically, new models for emotional wellness.
New models for emotional wellness. What did that look like in practice? Is it just traditional therapy with a new name, or are there specific new techniques?
It's a paradigm shift. The sources detail the rise of something called structured detachment therapy. The goal isn't to deny the simulation, but to teach people psychological techniques for creating boundaries between their ego and the digital nature of their surroundings. Therapists are teaching people to view themselves less as physical bodies and more as focal points of consciousness. That allows them to detach emotionally from the trauma of seeing a system glitch or from that constant existential dread.
So it's like mental hygiene for the cosmos, learning how to emotionally sandbag yourself against reality-shattering news.
Exactly, and adopting these strategies is vital to empower people. The push is to foster a community that actively supports mental health in an age where our deepest perceptions are being challenged every day, making sure the quest for authenticity doesn't lead to a mass psychological breakdown.
So, okay, let's bring this all together. We've covered this whole spectrum of reaction, from a massive tech revolution that treats reality like an API, through a global philosophical debate that's resetting our values, and ending with this personal, deeply human resilience we see in people like Maya and Marcus.
The so what for you is that this knowledge isn't theoretical anymore. It describes real, concrete shifts happening right now, all driven by this one disclosure. We've seen AR and XR reframed from toys into essential verification tools. We've seen the global need for new ethical and psychological frameworks. And through it all, that powerful, persistent human search for authentic connection is the ultimate anchor. The simulation revelation, it's less of an apocalypse and more of a violently accelerated beginning.
And that brings us to the final thought we want to leave you with. It builds directly on what the source material is hinting at for the future. The sources consistently mention looking ahead to how the very technologies that were started by this discovery will further reshape our understanding of existence.
You have to consider the feedback loop, right? If knowing about a possible simulation immediately made us treat AR and XR as a debugger for reality, what happens when that debugger gets its next major upgrade?
What new technological reality will we intentionally build, not just accept, but construct within the one we currently inhabit, now that we know the rules of existence might just be negotiable code? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Stay curious and remember to question everything.